This episode of Power Women of the Trades is also brought to you by Forrest Perry of Forrest Perry Digital Marketing. Want to generate more leads for your service business? Trust his team to deliver quality new customer leads and protect your brand online. Check out perrymarketing.com today.
Most businesses' online presence is boring, and by being boring, they're losing out on potential sales and customers. Being interesting and exciting is what draws customers in and gets them to buy from you. But it's hard to be interesting online when you're focused on running your business and taking care of your customers. It doesn't have to be this way. We have the key to unlocking the solution to your problem. Key Heart Marketing can help take your business from boring to brilliant on social media. We can vouch for them. They run our podcast socials. If you want to have a strong social media presence that allows customers to know, like, and trust you, connect with Key Heart Marketing at keyheartmarketing.com.
Hey everyone, this is Eric Thomas with Rival Digital, and I am proud to announce that we are the newest sponsor for the Power Women of the Trades podcast. We've been a big fan and supporter of the show for years, and we are just very excited and very honored for the opportunity to now be one of the podcast sponsors. So make sure you check out their page and subscribe to the podcast and listen in on wherever you get your podcast episodes from. Rival Digital is a full-service premier digital marketing agency for the home services industry. We offer everything from website design, search engine optimization, online advertising, public relations, and more. If you're interested in learning more about the services we offer for contractors just like yourself, head on over to rivaldigital.com, and we look forward to chatting with you.
Welcome to Power Women of the Trades podcast. This show is all about breaking barriers and changing the game. Our guests will feature some of today's most successful female entrepreneurs and other advocates of our industry as well. Because if there's one thing we know for sure, female-led entrepreneurship drives change on multiple levels. We want to empower women in the trade industry like you so you can maximize your potential, stay balanced, achieve long-term success, and claim ownership over your life. Let's get started.
Hi, welcome back to Power Women of the Trades with Cassie and Kaylee. Today we are here with Kerri Raynor with Raynor Services. Hey, how are you doing?
I'm good. How about you guys?
Good. We're
So
like,
excited.
today's been like a whirlwind of a day. It's funny. I feel like I was just sitting here like, as soon as I entered us, I thought to myself, we should be filming a day in our life today because we have such a jam-packed day that we're running. And then as soon as I said, welcome to Power Women of the Trades, I was like, this is like real life, like TV stuff when people are like, you're running to save their lives. I'm taking a picture of this right now just for the good. Like, you're just like, I can't believe we're running like the way we are today.
Yeah.
But hey, that just is like it, right? Some days our days are just crazy. So it just
Real.
is.
Yeah.
So
Yes. Keep it
Kerri,
real.
yeah, for sure. Tell us about yourself, ma'am. How are you? Who are you?
Gosh. Well, I'm good. I'm Kerri Raynor. I am part of Raynor Services, which my husband started like 32 years ago. And we actually had met back then. I met him when I was 17 and he was 26. He had decided that day, or that year rather, to start his company, which used to be called Raynor Electric. And I remember him, if you look on our website, you'll see like the man and the plan and the van. And it's really true. It was like a red pickup truck, like tools could fall out, it had holes, and it was him and a helper. And so I knew him, but I wasn't with him or anything. We were just friends. And I went to nursing school and had met him actually at the local community college and decided like I was going to go to college early. I have no idea why it didn't get me any further ahead. I was 17, like, young, like thinking I knew it all, and had met him there. So he started the business. We started dating a couple years later. I finished nursing school. I worked as an oncology nurse. I wanted to be a pediatric oncology nurse, but I learned that the kids were going to have to comfort me if I did it.
Mhm.
Once I did that rotation in nursing school, I was like, I don't think I can do it.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing adult and adolescent oncology. We got married in 2000. And, little by little, you're the wife, you're a nurse, you solve problems. You're like, so you would hear your husband complain, like, I don't know what to do about this, and I don't know what to do about
Mhm.
that. And nobody listens about this. And so next thing I knew, I was like writing handbooks, and I was coming up with job descriptions, and I was doing meetings at the kitchen table at his parents' house where he still ran the business, and like this whole thing. And we got pregnant with our oldest in 2002. And in 2003, when I was going to go back to nursing, I thought for sure he'd die if I left him, our oldest, Charlie. And so I quit my nursing job, and I was supposed to be a stay-at-home mom. And he pulled me in day by day, bit by bit, and the door got locked behind me. And
Yeah.
I just started working in the business every day, in between kids, in between everything. So,
Yeah.
and
It's
long
it's so
time.
crazy. Like there's so much like everyone's story kind of has like the same theme because I think we focus a lot on the trades and the space in
Mhm.
this industry. But I think there's a lot of things that are common in all of the industries. So like, you saying like you heard him at the kitchen table battling some of the issues, but you could
Mhm.
relate to some of those in your own day to day because at the end of the day, like I always say, it's people, it's just people, no matter what, right?
Mhm.
And so, I love that you like kind of you saw that and jumped in, and then he locked the door behind you.
Yeah.
That's a good,
He legitimately did.
yeah.
We joke about it all the time.
It's like you're not
It's
going back to nursing, ma'am.
Yeah. No, there was
Not.
an actual conversation where I was like, "Hun, if I don't do my CEUs, I can't keep my license." And he just looked at me and he said, "Well, how are you gonna go back to nursing? Like, who's gonna run Raynor?" And I was like, "Crap." And, by then I had fallen in love with it, but I hadn't really thought about the this or this instead of kind of
Mhm.
having both in my back pocket. And it did become hard. Our kids had a lot of health issues. So it was really hard to like have young kids, run the business, think I was going to keep my CEUs going. And so I did eventually make that conscious decision to say, how can I help like my family and the business? And I took a lot of like what I did in nursing and applied it to the business. Nursing is very like process driven. It's very HVAC itself is very much like the human body. So
Mhm.
when you look at it and you think about it, it makes so much sense. So I think that's where like I love electric. It's also partially like the human body. But then I really started to fall in love with HVAC, I think, because I really understood it. And then it's also very process driven. So um I fell in love with it. And then especially once we joined Nexstar in 2009, that made a
Mhm.
big difference for us. Like, he wanted to join in 2007. I was like, "You're out of your mind. We have 2 little kids. We can't pay this monthly fee if we're not gonna use it." And, in 2009, he got me to go to, a super meeting, and, I still didn't fully understand what it was, but I was like, "Okay, if we're gonna do this, then we better use it." And, like, that just put a bolt on the door for sure, from nursing to
Mhm.
trades, because now it was me who was gonna use it.
Right,
So that's when
right.
I just
Yep.
got, like, super involved.
Yeah.
So it
So what
changed
did
the
you do?
world that way.
What
Yeah.
did you do whenever you first started out? Like, what were your roles whenever you first started out working with Raynor?
When I first started out, it was really just 100% problem solver. It was firefighter, just like putting out whatever fire was existing that day. Whether it was back then, we had more customers than we could handle. So it
Mhm.
was putting, my husband was very big on, we call everybody back, even if
Mhm.
it's to recommend them to someone else because we can't get to them, but you don't not answer the phone. And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
some days my role was literally taking a list of people that we didn't know, that we knew we weren't going to be able to get to, and calling them back and referring them to local contractors that we were friends with that did the same work. Um,
That's
Other times, what's that?
That's really cool. That's cool that you did that. Not a lot
Mhm.
of people would do that. They would just be like, figure it out on your own, and that's not my problem, or absolutely not. Well, I recommend, so that's really cool
Mhm.
that you were willing to do that.
Oh yeah, it was literally probably my first real job at Raynor, was turning people away to somebody else because we
That was a
couldn't
good
keep up.
problem. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was a
yeah.
good problem.
Oh yeah, and then it was really just process. He would say, "I don't understand," because I think as a tradesman, he was like, "I know how to do this work. I know how to schedule customers. I know, but some things for his guys, he would think should be common sense. And I would say, but your
Mhm.
common sense isn't their common sense. They don't have your same life
Mhm.
experience. Like, we need to come up with a structure for these things. So then it was bit by bit, the weekly meetings, job descriptions. Like, we would literally have egg sandwiches around the kitchen table with the other electricians and discuss like the needs for the week and stuff.
I
And
love that.
yeah, so it's very different now, but that's a lot of what it was. What fire and how do I put it out?
So
Figure it out.
size-wise through the years, like when you came into Raynor and you guys were so busy, like how big of a business were you guys then? And then what did you grow into?
So back then, I would say in 2000, we probably only had like less than a dozen employees, and we only did electric. And Tom is the master licensed electrician and HVAC. He holds a master license for that as well. And I would say we were probably like $500,000 in total revenue with all of those people, but we were completely subs for remodeling. So we did,
Mhm.
kitchen, bath, basement additions. We did all of that. And it was such a different business. It actually would become painful trying to get bills paid, because I can't tell you how many times general contractors would say, well, you didn't get that work change order in fast enough,
Oh,
or
mhm.
did you get it in writing? And we would say, oh my gosh, what are you talking about in writing? You called while we were on site and we're like, do it, do it, do it, do it. Were
Mhm.
you going to come up and sign it?
Yeah.
So it was a whole different business. And then fast forward to today, we learned the hard way how to do generators. My husband wired a generator for a customer in electric and said, listen, we've never done this before. Can we try it with you? And he was like, okay. They shot 240 through the entire house, burned out all the electronics,
Oh,
like
no.
just killed it in the wrong way. And so
Uh-oh.
that customer is still our customer today because he replaced everything. He fixed it, like he stood behind it. We learned how to do generators. And then it
Mhm.
was solar. Like, how do you do solar? How do you find somebody who's going to tell you all the 5 million steps to get a solar project from start to finish, and making those connections? So then we added solar. And then probably about maybe 15, 16 years ago, we started HVAC. And
Mhm.
so that was probably the hardest to start because we started it completely organically. It was like a trade on the side.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
it was a big struggle, but now we did, I think, 13 million this year. We have, I think, 62 employees, and yeah, we'll probably add plumbing this coming year as well.
So did you guys, do you still do the remodeling and contractor stuff, or have you
No, it was,
did you yes, I feel like everyone has that trauma story. Not
yeah.
everybody, but so are you just residential now?
So we're residential and some light commercial. In New Jersey, we have a lot of programs that really help customers in residential and commercial. So
Uh-huh.
we've kind of made it a mission to join all of them. And it's funny because having been a nurse, I really feel like I'm very solution oriented and I want to
Mhm.
know what's out there. What can I really have the conversation with the customer to find out what would you qualify for? Do you know this is out there? And hey, we can get this for you. And so I feel like that has been a really big push. I will say the part where we left remodeling and went into just straight residential service was traumatic, but in such a weird way because we're not perfect people. I always say to like I was watching a couple of your podcasts and you were talking about humans, right? And so
Mhm.
two things I always say is one, I'd rather have a good human than a skilled human because I
Yep.
can train somebody's skill, but I can't change your soul.
Yep.
And then the other thing I tell any customer I talk to is listen, we're a business filled with imperfect people and we're going to make mistakes, but we're going to stand behind them and we're going to fix them. And
Mhm.
that's the best part. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you we're going to do it perfect, but we will stand behind it. As much as we try to do that, we do try to live it personally. And a lot of our general contractors were friends of ours at this point. And so my husband and I agonized over how do we tell our friends we don't want to work for them anymore?
Yeah.
And so we sought out other contractors to fill the role who were in a different place in their business. And
Mhm.
so it was like, we're going to break up with you, but here's a good person who could do this for you instead. And they
Yeah.
were still so upset. So we did lose some friends, but we couldn't keep doing it. It was becoming
Not, yeah.
so
It's like such a
unproductive.
strange. It was, yeah, and it was, you become everyone's bank, and anyone that I know now that like, because obviously new construction and stuff like is still happening, and
Mhm.
somebody's doing it, but some general contractors robbing those subs. It's just the facts. And even the subs that I
Yes.
know that they're like, no, it's not like that for us. No, I'm like, I promise you, if we really dug into it, like, you are not making the money you think you are. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're never getting paid
Yes.
correctly. It's awful. And so it about killed us in
Yeah.
and we didn't get out of it until 2020. And we
Oh, wow.
still 5 years later are still dealing with it. And because some of the the debt that we had gotten into on some scenarios, but what really screwed us was not only were we already doing it, but then we went into COVID and we had
Oh, yes. Oh,
millions of dollars of contracts signed of big commercial, or like not commercial, but a new residential new construction, multifamily, and then contracts, and then the price increases, and there was no protection on those contracts for us, and so we paid to finish those
oh,
jobs. It was
oh
literally
gosh.
hell. It was
Yeah.
hell, and so that about killed us, and so we were able to like propel and get out of it, but like Oscar and I still look back sometimes are like, how the heck did we do that? You know,
Oh,
like
yeah.
how,
Yeah.
and it was just like we had to, Nextstar was a huge piece of helping us in that.
Mhm.
And getting, a plan and realizing that like we just flipped the script one day and was like, if the customer's not paying today, they're not our customer. Like they
Yes.
have to be paying today. We cannot, we can no longer be all these people's banks. It's
Yeah.
rough. It was really
Yeah.
rough. So
You
but go ahead.
I feel that because I didn't even think about that perspective because you're
Mhm.
right. In 2020, you saw lumber go through the roof. You saw
Mhm.
material costs like double, triple, quadruple, and you already had these contracts. Like, I can't
Mhm,
even
and we were locked
imagine.
in, so our metal pricing was going up, and every time that we would go in and we couldn't get anything locked in, and then ductwork, like, oh, it gives me goosebumps. It was awful, awful, and then, of course, these big GCs that you've worked with for all these years, they're just, like, gonna, push you through
Yeah.
it. It sucked. It was awful.
Yeah.
So, we
Well,
survived. We
you
survived,
made my
but
trauma better now. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
right.
because
No, it's not. But it does, like, and that's why I still like I get so passionate about people like protecting themselves and
Yes.
understanding what they're getting into, and
Yeah.
really understanding new construction and what's happening. And it's wild. And um I feel like it's trying to come back the other direction. Like I think that enough contractors are like, no, we can't do that, like the subs, but who knows, man. It's rough out there.
Yes, it
It's
is.
rough
And
for
and
sure.
getting out in 2009 was the housing market
Mhm.
crash. And so that was tough in and of itself. But thankfully we had enough where we had still been dabbling in just direct to customer work. So that transition in that sense was a little better. But I feel like and I don't know if this is the wrong thing to say, but I feel like as women, you have to pivot, right? I used to say to people all the time, actually made some staff answer this question. I said, "Have you ever seen the movie Sybil?" And
Mhm.
it's a movie that has Sally Field in it many years ago, where she has multiple personalities. I think she has 26 or 29 personalities. And my staff was going through a rough time in the office. And I said, I want you guys to think about this movie. You don't have to watch it. Maybe just Google it and tell me why I'm asking you to find out why I say there's some aspect of you that has to be like you have multiple personalities. And one of
Mhm.
my staffers came back who was a guy, still works for me, and he said, it's because whenever you talk to somebody, you have to be a different person.
Mhm.
I said, yes, know your audience. And so then like handle it according to what's going to work with that audience that
Mhm.
you have. And I feel like when we went from the new construction or the remodeling to residential, we still had a lot of contracts out there. And I had to be a different personality every day to deal with each person who owed us that money. And I was
Mhm.
a bulldog while still being like gentle, depending
Mhm.
upon the audience.
No, you have to be a bulldog, or you had to be, yeah. But that's still so true. Like I really love that reference because it's still so true. Our staff has to be a different person on every phone call, whether it's our technician or our
Yeah.
customer, because that technician you can. And I use the example a lot. I have 6 kids, and so I use this a lot with I have one kid that I am a hardcore parent with. Like, I'm the person that somebody, now he's an adult now, so I can joke about it now, but I was like, used to, I would be like, someone's going to call Child Protective Services on me on this kid, because he's the kid that you cannot gentle parent. You cannot talk calmly to. You have to basically be like, boy, I'm going to, whatever. And that's how he responds. But then I have another kid that if I would have spoke to him that way, he would melt down and lose his mind. Right. So, but I know my audience. I know my kids. I know I know if I talk to this kid gently, he would just be like, whatever, she's not even serious right now. But if I got in his ass, right, then he knew I was. And so, but we forget that, like, that's real life with our technicians too. And that's how they respond. And so you have to decide, you have to learn how they respond, And so you've got to do that digging, and you might have that technician that, or do they need recognition, or do they get awkward with recognition? We have some that absolutely need the recognition, but then we have a few people that they get awkward with recognition, and you've got to have multiple personalities.
Always. Township inspector, I'm different than somebody in leadership, than a tech, than a customer, than right. Even CSR and DSR, they have very specific personality types. And so how do you talk to each one of those? And it was even with the general contractors, like knowing you owe me 40 grand. And I'm going to play whatever part I need to play to get that, because my family, that my employees' families, their babies, they deserve it. Like years ago, I would show up at a door of a contractor's home with my kids, and we would knock, and I'd say, "Hey, Kevin, remember? I just came by to stop by to pick up that check. These are my, And, and I'm not trying to be dishonest or deceitful, but it was dishonest or deceitful not to pay the bill. So I was going to do what I needed to do to be able to pay my technicians, to be able to pay the bills, because in reality, they were going to do the same thing in one form or another. So you got to be what you got to be in the moment. You got it.
So I have built quite a reputation for myself, because I am exactly what you're saying. Like, I can be the bulldog, or we can be friends, and we can be both. I can be both in the same conversation with you. 100%. But at the end of the day, my obligation is to the 100 employees the 100 people I employ in my family, and we're going to take care of them every single time. And man, it's funny though. I always say, like, if you haven't done new construction or any like construction type work, remodel type work, you need like at least one go of it, because it builds something in you. Like if you didn't have it, you need at least one time of it, because if you haven't like chased money or bill collected or literally like thought this, if I don't figure this out, I don't know, it just built something in me for sure.
Yes, it definitely builds a strength. And then I think one thing I'm really big on too is like how you do it. I think you can be a bulldog without being a jerk. I think you can find your way to change how you handle that audience without running people over that don't need to be run over. How you lead. Years and years ago, I did a personality test. There's actually a post on my LinkedIn coming if it didn't already come, but I did through Nexstar, actually. It was like one of the first things they did back then, where you do a personality test and you get a response, and it's one of 4 quadrants. You're a thinker, a driver, a motivator, or a supporter. And back in 2009, when I took it, I was dead center driver. And my husband was dead center thinker. And so he always would think, and I would be like, let's get it done. Let's get it done. And somebody once said to me, but you don't want to leave bodies in the aisle while you do it. And I retook that same test like 8 years later, and I'm still at the core a driver. I want to get it done. I want to get it done. But I've learned over the years how to be a motivator and a supporter. And I think you can be a bulldog and get stuff done and still be a driver without bullying, without fear tactics, you can still have passion and compassion, which I think is also really important for good culture. Yeah.
For sure. And then there's still the fine line that sometimes you do have to end up flipping the switch and becoming the bully if you have to. But, and I just think that's a growth, right? Of figuring it out, because, and I always say, like, people who previously worked for me, there's probably some like from years ago that are like, she is not who she says she is. And you're right.
Oh, yes.
You
You're,
know,
yeah.
they would be right 5 years
Mhm.
ago or 3 years ago or 10 years ago. But the evolution of who I am as a leader is a whole story, you know? And so
Yes.
anyway, so it's really interesting and it, especially as women, because we have to, Kaylee has her own like story of like changing. She's the opposite though. So where I could be like, I always came in super strong. She came in like so meek and mild. And I had to be like, use your voice.
That's happened over the years, but I've learned that in the position I am in, I have to have that. So I've learned that there's times when I have to stand up and say this is how it is, even if that means that I'm not being the sweet Kaylee that everyone knows. So
I just watched a clip of one of your podcasts where the question was, did you think you would be here 3 years ago, and how you were more behind the camera than in front of it, and how you've changed a lot. And something about just because you're 25, it doesn't mean that you don't have knowledge or you don't have value, which I thought was really very true. You don't, it doesn't have to just be about age.
Yeah.
You know? I love that.
Thanks.
Awesome. She's learned that. But when she first started with us, I would have to get on like phone calls and be like, Kaylee said that this is what we were doing. So that was the decision. And, oh, well, we didn't know if you've trusted her to do that, or we didn't do this, or we didn't. And I would be like, Kaylee, and she's done a really good job now. And so she's found her voice and she holds people accountable. And now it's like, she doesn't lead with, well, and I don't think she ever led with, I'm only 21 or I'm only 22. She never led with that. But people always just assumed that was going to be like her weakness. And now like, that's not a weakness at all. And nor is it an assumption. She like commands the room now, and like or
go Kaylee.
It's a lot of growth though, for sure, and mentorship from Cassie and other mentors that I've had to really bring it out of me. And
well, that's important for you to listen to it. You took it. That's like, you can give things, but if somebody's not going to take it, you took it. Go you. I love that.
And she's still so positive all the time. Like I say, still so positive. Like she's found like such the mix balance for her. The balance. We always say she's our chief happiness officer, because like her desk is outside, not very far from my office. And so I hear her and she greets every single person that walks in, whether like I just hear her all the time, and I can hear her smile without seeing her. And that's something that like sometimes I have to fake my smile, you know, and I wish I didn't, but sometimes I do. And actually this morning, was it this morning or yesterday? I said something. Were you in my office? And one of our plumbers walked by and I was like, hey. And I was like genuinely happy and like and he was like, did you have some glitter in your coffee this morning?
Yeah, that was it.
And I was like,
that's funny.
No, like, I don't think so. But like, I know in that moment I wasn't faking a smile or faking a hello, and he felt that. And so I was like, dude, I got to get better at that, you know, like being better at like just being happy all the time, or not being so zoned in.
Yeah.
It's just important to me because the culture quality is important, and I want to uphold that that culture, and like people can know that if they're not having a great day, they can come to me and be like, hey, how's it going? Or just talk to me if they need to talk to someone, just because a smile can change anything, or just asking how someone's day's going could change how their morning's going. And so if I'm a part of making someone have a better day, I want to be able to help someone have a better day.
100%. When I worked at a hospital in New Jersey, I briefly left Hahnemann and went to work at this other hospital. And I had a patient who was just so sad about his diagnosis. And I don't blame him. It was a rough diagnosis. But when I was a nurse, I would kind of like get to know my patient. A lot of times if you work 3 12s in a row, you might get the same patients for those 3 days, right? Which is nice because you get to know them. And I would write, I would get to know that patient. And if I thought that patient would need to be like cheered up, I would see what would work for them. And like, I remember this one gentleman, his name was Ed, and I would post a joke or a riddle for him every day where the nurses write their name on the board. And every day he would laugh. I took care of him for months on and off. And he'd be like, all right, what's my joke today? And so I just think it depends upon how you approach things. Like some days are going to stink. Some situations are going to stink. And I feel like as an owner, what I've learned is there has to be boxes, at least for me. Like this is my teenager's box. I only have 3. I can't have 6. Oh my goodness gracious. But then I have like my employees box, just your own struggles box. And so, and then work box. And so you come in and you have to be ready to like be what you need to be in the situation that you're in and like put those other things in the box. And but it is hard sometimes. You like forget like, oh, I'm in this other box right now. I have to smile. Like when maybe you really don't feel like it because whatever happened outside of work that day might have been a lot and you're human too. So,
or, when we have like, I think sometimes like, when I started this episode earlier and I said, I literally went right into, and welcome back to Power Women of the Trades. And I just can turn that on, right? Because that's what I'm supposed to do right now. I'm in the box. So that was what I was supposed to do. But literally 20 minutes ago, we were in a different building doing completely different things. And
oh, wow.
and I, but earlier this week, I had to start my day with 2 very serious conversations. And then back to back and then walk out. And that was a freaking Monday, by the way, so 2 very serious, hard conversations and then walk out of those and then be the leader, and what you're saying of like in that box of that time, sometimes it's like, I've got to go to the bathroom and like, look like pep talk myself, like, girl, yo, crap together right now. That has to go away. You still have, 90 other people to lead. And I think that sometimes we don't give ourselves credit enough as leaders for what we have to do. Like that, right? Like, because it's hard sometimes of just being like, I still want to be pissed off right now. And I can't be because I still have to lead these other people for the rest of the day.
Right. And they don't deserve whatever the other thing was, right? And so if they're not a part of it, you don't want to bring that to them. It's not fair.
It's not fair.
Yeah.
But
we have to carry.
Hard. That's hard. And
it took me a long time.
I know. And it's still a work in progress. And then there's still things that I'm just like, guys, even, and I try to be that leader to our leadership team now of, all right, we've got to shake it off and we still got the rest of the day, like, it's just because it's 12 and we've sold nothing, we can't just drown in our, drown for the rest of the day. Like you got to flip the script and like go for a jog or a dance or something, sometimes I just crank the music up and, on accident, I just crank.
Oh yeah.
This has been Power Women of the Trades. Like what you hear so far? Leave us a review in Apple and make sure to listen to our other episodes wherever you enjoy listening to your podcasts. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.